Hey guys, it's me, Caden with Team CLB, and today I'm bringing you my cubic deck profile. This is the cubic list I use for anything competitive that I choose to play the deck for, so tournaments, money matches, and the like. I've got some minor issues with it that I'm probably going to try and fix in the future. I'm just unsure of how to approach it right now. Biggest thing is like Lancia is probably not a great card for me because one of our only going first plays involves us banishing on the opponent's turn, but I'm going to work on that. We're going to see. But for now, this is what it is. So without further ado, first we have best cubic card in the deck, if you can summon it. Buster Gundell, he cannot be normal summoned or normal summoned or set, and he has to be special summoned by sending 3 cubic monsters you control to the grave. Specifically to the graveyard, so you can't summon him under like D-Shifter, for example. If he's summoned that way, by his own condition, he gains 3,000 attack, and he can attack 3 times per battle phase. And then if this card in my possession, so hand, deck, field, whatever, is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, so like by battle or effect, then you can target up to 3 cubic monsters in your grave, special summon them, and then add a cubic card from your grave or your deck to your hand. That effect almost never comes up because people surprisingly read this card a lot. Next, we have the boss monster, 3 Crimson Nova the Dark Cubic Lord. He can't be normal summoned or special summoned, except by revealing 3 other cubic cards with different names in your hand, though this can include another Crimson Nova. It just cannot be the same Crimson Nova. He's unaffected by the activated effects of monsters with an original attack of 3,000 or less. If he destroys a monster by battle, he can activate his effect to attack again. And in the end phase, both players take 3,000 damage. Yes, this effect can cause a draw. Please don't listen to anyone who says it can't. Then we've got the actual best card in the deck, 3 Duza, the Meteor Cubic Vessel. On summon, he is a Foolish for a cubic card. And then once per turn, as a quick effect, he can check if a monster was sent to your graveyard that turn, at any point during the turn. He can gain 200 attack for every monster in your grave with a different name. You can activate that during the damage step. Like, you can just hold it for that long if you want to. That effect comes up less often than others, but it is an effect he has. Then we've got the one Eldritch. This deck has a lot of spells and traps that like to be in the grave. And it does like to OTK, though it doesn't necessarily have to. Eldritch is just a great way to be able to get those spells and traps in the grave, remove problem cards from the board, and also get a good chunk of damage onto the field. Then we've got one Giragail, the Cubic King. He says you can't normal summon or set him, and he has to be special summoned by sending a cubic monster you control to the grave. And if he is summoned from your hand, um, he he inflicts 800 damage to your opponent, though this is a mandatory effect, so with one of the major combos of the deck, it is always going to be Chainlink 1, sadly. Then we've got my least favorite card in the deck, being 1 Vision the Cubic Seed. In some lists, you run this at 2 or 3. I personally run 1 because I don't feel like the attack gain effect from another card later is that relevant. He's really just here as another name, in my opinion. He can't be destroyed by battle, and he's great for, like, negating problem cards if you don't have another answer to them. Because if he battles a monster at the end of the damage... Yeah, at the end of the damage step, you can move him to the spell and trap card zone, and give that monster a cubic counter. That doesn't target, and a cubic counter, what it does is it negates the effects of the monster and prevents that monster from attacking. So you can, like, activate Dharma so you take no damage from battles, normal summon Vijam, and negate the effects. The only problem with the set is that it wastes your battle phase a lot of the time, and while you can, it's not necessarily something you want to do. Then we've got 3 Dharma. It says you take no battle damage from attacks involving cubics, hence the Vijam play with it. And you can use each of the following effects once per turn. So you can either send a cubic card from your hand to the grave and draw a card, or you can banish it from your grave, targeting a cubic monster and adding it back. You can use both of those effects in the same turn. Usually the graveyard effect is the only one I use in a duel. Very occasionally I'll use both. Then we've got 3 Cubic Wave. This one has some important effects. and it has a lot of effects. It's got 3 separate effects that always come up, basically. One of them does come up less than the other 2, but all 3 of them do come up. If it's activated, you can target a cubic monster you control except for Vijam, and send any number of Vijams from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And for each Vijam sent, the targeted monster gains 800. So usually you use it to make Crimson Nova like 3800, or to make Duza 24, or 26 following its own effect. But it's another way to get cards out of the deck for cards like Reasoning and Monster Gate, so you have less targets to hit. Then, during your opponent's turn, if a Vijam is brought back by the effect of a cubic monster, you can send it to the graveyard and have your opponent's life points. This always comes up with Buster Gundell if you can. That's the only time it'll come up in this list. But basically, it just lets you get rid of like half the life points that your opponent has, and then it sets up its third effect, which says that you can banish it from the grave to add a cubic monster from your deck to your hand. That's not once per turn. A lot of the cards in this deck aren't once per turn. For example, Deuce is not once per turn. Buster Gundell's not once per turn. Also, this does trigger off of Nib, which is a neat interaction. So, like, if your opponent Nibiru's you while this is on the field, you can bring back, like, 3 Duzas and add the Gundell from grave to hand, summon the Gundell again, and then crash with the Nib, and then activate the Gundell again to bring 3 back. I've not done that a lot, but it does come up. Then we have Cubic Wave. This card is amazing as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the best cards in the deck. I regret the lists where I cut it down to 2. So basically, you can target a cubic monster you control and a face-up monster your opponent controls, double the attack of yours, and then have the attack of theirs. This works even if their monster leaves the field, or if their monster is unaffected, because you double your monster first and then have theirs, regardless of if theirs can even actually be halved. And then it has a graveyard effect where you can banish it along with any number of cubic monsters to target cards your opponent controls and give them a cubic counter. And just like Vijam, these cubic counters negate the effects and prevent them from attacking. Great card, lets you OTK under Prosperity. Wouldn't ever cut down to less than 3, made that mistake once, never again. Then we've got 3 Foolish Burial Goods. This just sets up the graveyard plays for like Dharma to add back, or Karma to search, Wave to negate. Unification, because Unification lets you summon from deck while it's in the graveyard. Yeah, this card's really good. Then we've got 1 Harpies, because this deck is not a fan of back row decks. Certain back row it can play through, like a Solemn usually isn't too bad, depending on what your opening hand is and things like that. But the 1 Harpy's in the main. 1 Monster Gate, because it is an extender after Duza, but also because it can help you get 2 plays if, like, your first Duza gets ashed or something like that. You can Monster Gate, tribute it, and then try and get back into the game. 3 Mystic Mine. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not. Great card. Lets you win games you have no business winning. Wouldn't cut it, honestly. It's won me so many times when I just was in an absolutely losing position otherwise. 3 Prosperity, the half damage on this really doesn't matter because of the fact that Crimson Nova can attack twice, Buster Gundell can attack thrice, Wave and Karma can both boost your attack. Nova also has his burn damage along with Gira's. So, like, going for 8,000 damage under Prosperity is far from difficult. 1 Reasoning, basically same thing as Monster Gate, except Reasoning can also act as a starter. That, and if your opponent doesn't know what you're playing, if they think you're playing Infernoids when you activate Reasoning first, and they call 1, you only have 1 level 1 normal summonable target. So that's why we play Reasoning. But it also sends everything else to the grave, so if you dump any of your cubic spells, then you're set. 3 Super Poly, because this deck loves Super Poly. It can even use it as a way to kill in the battle phase. Like, there was one time I had Duza Eldritch. I went and poked for 51 and then Super Poly'd into this to do 7,000 total while they were already down 1,000 from Cosmic. So it worked out in my favor. Then we've got 3 Imperm, because it's the only good hand trap this deck can run other than maybe Psyframe Gamma. And honestly, I don't like the Gamma because of the 1 extra driver brick. Also, I don't feel like having to find a 4th spot to put in a card. Then we've got 3 Unification of the Cubic Lords. This whole first effect does not come up because we do not play the Fusion Monster. Fusion Monster bad. But it says if a face-up cubic monster on the field is destroyed or leaves the field, you can banish it from your grave and summon a level 4 or lower cubic monster from your deck, ignoring the summoning conditions. And if you do, it can't be destroyed by battle or effects that turn. So you can use it to cheat out the Buster Gundell from deck. You can use it to summon Vijam, Girigile, or Duza. There is another one you could run in certain cubic lists, Indio or Doomvault. He sends 3, but he still does the 800 burn damage like Girigile does. But he also has the same Monster Reborn effect as Buster Gundell. This is arguably the best extender in the deck, but it is also the biggest brick in the deck, which is why we run cards like Dharma and Eldritch and Goods and Super Poly, things that like just generally discard a lot. For the extra deck, we have 1 Dragon Echo Nether Soul for the Eldritch matchup, or any other random zombie matchups we happen to come across. We have Dragostapelia and Elysium for the invoked matchup, though Dragostapelia comes up against anything that summons DPE. So, for example, against PK, you can go, before they activate DPE to pop, you can activate Super Poly, fuse away DPE, and like Bardiche or something to make Dragostapelia. Mud Dragon is good against basically everything. You can use like Baron and Gira to make it. You can use Duza and Chi-Chow, all sorts of things with it. And then, of course, Starving Venom is just the one tried and true Super Poly target. It's great. It clears boards on its own, potentially. It's just amazing. Dweller is just the best rank 4 we can run for going first and second, because going first, we can obviously make it against the decks that it's good against, and going second, a lot of times when we use it, it's because we don't have a Unification of the Grave, or because we don't want to trigger the Unification yet, so we can wait until a later turn for the Unification to be used more as a protection thing, while also giving us a monster that is 100 bigger than what Duza is usually going to be. I could run Dagaris, but the fact that it skips the next draw phase, main phase, or battle phase is very problematic for this deck a lot of the time. Then for links, we run access code, because Duza plus Eldritch is Duza plus a way to... Duza plus an extender plus Eldritch is 8,800 through a fairly open, or through a fairly closed board still, so like it can do it through most boards, as long as they don't have like 4 interruptions. You can potentially OTK with these 2 and another extender. IP, it's just good going first. You make Unicorn, you make Avermax, whatever you need to do. Phoenix and Unicorn, obviously for link climbing and for breaking boards. Link Rebo for the Vijam. Anima also for the Vijam. Most people tend to run one or the other. I usually go into the Anima first, but if I'm playing against something like Dinos or something that gives me a token, you have to use the Link Rebo. That's the only reason I'm still running both, is because I run into a lot of random niche decks that happen to give me one token that I can't get rid of. But that's basically it. One line of the Light Tremor, because Dusa is a light, Eldritch is a light, Gundell is a light, and so is Chi-Chow, so you can just bring back the Chi-Chow and then make the Link 3. And then we've got 1 Avermax. Great Link 4, love this card. Make it with IP usually, so it can't be targeted with card effects. It's bigger than almost everything that would try and run it over, and at that point it can't be destroyed by card effects, and then when they do kill it, it shuffles one back non-target. Verte, obviously for sending Super Poly, and then, like I said, the Anima is usually to help break boards with Vijam. For the side deck, the biggest thing I would change is Lancia, because the Unification sometimes, like your opening turn play would be normal summon Dusa, send Unification, pass, and you can't do that under Lancia. 3 Droplet and Lightning Storm for breaking boards, because graveyard deck, but also I don't want to main deck it, because, honestly, I don't know space, really, because Super Poly. It's usually either Super Poly or Droplets, and I like Super Poly in the deck still. It comes up in a fair number of matchups that aren't, like, very specifically Bird Up and Flunderies. It can come up in basically everything else. And then Lightning Storms, the only reason I'm not maining is because of the Imperms. I think I would put Imperms here instead, or I would put Lightning Storms in instead of Imperms in certain situations, like in certain metas. You could also theoretically put the Droplets in instead of the Imperms, or this could be Chalice, depends on how you use it. I usually change how I use the card depending on matchup, so I feel like Imperm's slightly better. But then we have 3 Solemn Strike. I was main decking this to test flex spots. It was where the Imperms were, and the Imperms were evenlies, but again, everything banishes. Didn't want to lose to Lancia. Also, OTKing, so battle phase is kind of important. Strike is great going first for this deck. It gives us another like solid negation, so like you can negate the summon a Chi-Chao or whatever you need, and then Tikaboo, this deck can actually do its entire OTK combo. It can do its entire OTK combo under there can be only one, because all of the cubic monsters, with exception of these two, Vijam and Crimson Nova, are different type, and Duza going into Gear Guile, you go Machine, Fairy, Machine, Fiend, Machine, or sorry, Spellcaster Machine, Fiend Machine, Cybers. So you can dodge your own. There can be only one, and I'm gonna show you guys the main combo for the deck, like going first. Like if you get forced to go first, and I'm gonna do one going second. So going first, you want to have Duza and any extender, anything that gets Duza off the board, preferably like Monster Gate, though Giragaile is the standard one. So you would go like normal summon Duza, use his effect to send a Unification. So like I said, it's just a non-once per turn Foolish Burial for the deck. Send it to the graveyard to special summon Giragaile, using Giragaile as Chainlink 1 because it's mandatory. And Unification is Chainlink 2. You banish the Unification, and what it does is it lets you summon the Dusa from the deck. And then your opponent takes 800. Yes, there is an FTK build of Cubics. No, it's not good. Please don't try it. And then you activate Dusa, sending the second Unification. You make IP. You activate Dusa, or you activate Unification, summoning Dusa. And then you activate Dusa, sending the third Unification. So now on your opponent's turn, in this situation, you just have like 3 random cards. Would have been funny if it had been all 3 Prosperity. But you have like 3 random cards. Unicorn to shuffle one, and then Unification in that situation will just bring back bring out the Buster Gundell from the deck. That's the main thing when you want to do when you're going first, and then going second's a little different. Obviously, it's kind of hard to show, but the main purpose of the deck, with the way it's built, is to not necessarily kill your opponent, but to do as much as you can to break their board, and then like control the game state from there. So if you can kill, if that does mean killing them, because you can, you do. If you can't, Mystic Mind is a card. That's all I got to say about that one. But yeah, the deck is really fun. It's not the most competitive, but it's definitely more competitive than I think a lot of people give it credit for. The main reason I actually posted this video today is because I was featured in a DB Grinder video. I'll link that in the description. And a lot of people had messaged me on Discord, and a few people in the comment section of that and on Facebook and stuff messaged me asking for the list. So I figured I'd give the list. Here it is. And with that, my dog's hopping off the bed. So I'll see you later.